Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Saturday edition of Today in Sports Betting. Doing it college basketball style. So, Scott, we've got conference tournaments going on. So some of the games we're not going to actually have there could be some plays that we'll add late that we won't know what the line is, but we've got some pretty good games on tap, including yet another matchup in the Big Ten between top 10 teams. It just seems like another weekend, another huge matchup in the Big Ten. So
Definitely true. My question for you, just before we actually get into the matchups, do you think that the fact that all these teams are so highly ranked that these teams keep beating up on each other, do you think that's going to help the Big Ten in the tournament because they've had a very tough schedule, or do you think it's going to hurt because this team has had to go through pretty much multiple wars over the course of the last couple months?
no, I think that experience is going to help come tournament time, especially in the later rounds. I like these Big Ten teams. Have you seen the bet, Scott? The Big Ten versus the field plus 175.
Yes, I did. The one issue I have, though, with the Big Ten is that I think that a lot of the teams there are really good. I still only think there's really one title contender there. I think Illinois' got a shot, but I still think that team randomly has lapses where you don't really know what's happening. I
Right.
expect Illinois at some point to have a no-show in the tournament, and I don't think that'll really surprise anybody. And Iowa, I think, is kind of the same way, where Iowa, when they're good, they're really good because they can score 90-plus points any given day, but they also rely so heavily on threes that if they don't fall, this team's probably going to get bounced early. Now, realistically, I think that the Big Ten is going to have a couple of teams in the Sweet 16, but when it comes to teams that I think that could actually win the entire thing, I guess Illinois now enters the conversation after smacking Michigan without its best player on the road. I still think Michigan has the best chance to win the conference title. To win the title out of every team in the conference. You agree with
Yeah,
that?
that's hard. That's hard to argue with. It really is.
I'm saying, so you think that Michigan is still the best chance to win out of any Big Ten team over Illinois, even though Illinois just beat them?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. I think that took a perfect game from Illinois. It was it's any given Sunday and yada yada yada. But yeah, I think far and away they played that game 10 times. I think Michigan wins 7.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right, so let's take a look and see what we got here. Before we get going, though, Scott, how about our big announcement? We wanted to make sure that we had everything ready to rock and roll, and yeah, we're going to be moving into the area of terrestrial radio. Scott and I are going to be hosting a afternoon drive time show Monday through Friday on WWPR 1490 out of Tampa. It's the 11th largest media market in the country, Scott. We're going to be bringing that to the masses. So it is on the interwebs. It's not on radio.com yet, but you can go to their website and get the live audio feed if you're not in the Tampa area. So make sure that you listen along. We're going to take calls in the last segment where we do a little snap capping, and you give us a game and we'll give you our opinion. And I'm looking forward to it, Scott. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, should be. I know that it's definitely the right time to kind of make this transition because of the fact that, of course, you have conference tournaments as well as March Madness on the horizon. And I feel like everybody being a year removed from March Madness, because we didn't have one last year, is kind of itching a couple weeks in advance for this to actually take place. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. It's going to be it's good. It's a great time, for the off season. If it's not football season, we're pretty much picking the best week to begin.
Yep.
I agree. So, all right. And as they say, on with the show, let's take a look at let's take a look at that game tomorrow, Scott. We talked about, we teased it a little bit with the Big Ten going on there. It is Ohio State hosting Illinois. Ohio State is a 2-point favorite. 150 is the total here. Scott, who needs this game more?
Well, when it comes to needing, I think it really depends on what you actually value more. Do you care more about entering the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament in solid form, or do you care more about getting a potential 1 seed? Because that's really what's at stake here. Illinois knows the team's going to be a top 2 seed. It's either going to be a 1 or a 2. That's what I meant. And I feel like the win against Michigan kind of clinched that. But there is still a chance that this team could be a 1. Realistically, needs to win the conference tournament. I don't really see another way Illinois could be the 1 if it loses in the conference tournament.
Who
But
are the ones right now as you see it, Scott?
well, right now I think you have 3 that are guaranteed. You have Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan. Yes, even though Michigan lost to Illinois, I'm still putting Michigan on the 1 line. And then the 4th team I think is up for grabs. And I think that right now it probably would be Illinois. But since Illinois and Michigan, one of them has to lose minimum in the conference tournament. So I think you can agree with me that if Illinois does not win the conference tournament, probably will not be a 1. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I can't see Illinois. I think it's unlikely they pick up a 1 seed. Maybe if they lose to Michigan in the conference finals, they could still be a 1 seed.
Well, I think it's tricky because you have to go through all these conferences. And once again, we've mentioned this throughout the entire season. The top of these conferences really just aren't as good as they have been in previous years. Now, if you look at the actual rankings, since we're talking about the 4th overall number 1 seed, you got the top 3, which I think you'd agree with me on. Then you have Illinois, Iowa, same conference. You have West Virginia, who's in the same conference as Baylor. And you have Ohio State at 7, somehow, even though this team has kind of fallen apart. And then you have Bama, Houston, and Villanova. Now, Villanova lost Gillespie. The Big East hasn't been as good. Creighton's now without a head coach, so I'm not really sure if Villanova, even winning the conference, would jump them that many spots. I think Houston's intriguing. I don't exactly think that the committee's going to sprint to give a mid-major the 4th number 1 overall seed. I don't see that happening.
Can Bama? The question there is: can Bama or Houston win their way to a 1 seed?
That's what I was thinking. It's mostly Bama. I think if Bama wins out, I think they have a strong case. Houston, I think, could potentially be a top 4 team in the country, but I don't think the committee's going to give them the 1 seed. Do you? I don't see it.
I don't. Looking at the 2 seeds right now with Lenardi, it's Alabama, Houston, Iowa, and who's the Ohio State.
Realistically, it's kind of crazy. We just mentioned that the 3 of the teams that are competing for the 4th 1 seed are Big Ten teams, but that kind of draws into what we're talking about. I think whoever wins the Big Ten's a lock to get a 1 seed. The Big Ten tournament, I think it's a lock. It's just a question of you have 4 teams in the shuffle. I do think if Michigan loses, not gets upset, but if it loses in the semis or something like that, Michigan will be a 1 anyway. But I think that you'd agree if Michigan would lose in the semis and then you have an Iowa win the Big Ten tournament, I think Iowa's going to be a 1 seed. It's easily the hardest conference, and I think that if you win it, you definitely get bonus points. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think I think your Big Ten teams. I think you could have 2 potential Big Ten teams as number 1 seeds, providing Michigan does not win the tournament. So
yeah, I agree.
All right. So what do you got for this game?
Well, for this one, the truth is, can you really back Ohio State at this stage in the season, just based on how this team has played lately? It was kind of the same logic that I had when I faded Oklahoma against Texas. Oklahoma was in the middle of an implosion, and yet they were still laying points. I don't want to lay points with a team that really has just lost its way. And Ohio State seems to have lost its way a little bit, having lost 3 in a row. The loss to Michigan at home. Michigan's a great team. That's fine. The loss on the road to Michigan State. Don't get me wrong. I thought the officiating was very, very sketchy in that game, and I watched a decent amount of it. And then you had the no-show against Iowa, which I thought was very concerning because that's a home game, great bounce-back spot, and then Iowa absolutely just rolled them. I know you had money on the under, and Ohio State's offense couldn't generate anything against Iowa, which is pretty concerning. I think the most underrated storyline right now in the country has been Ohio State's forward Kyle Young, who's been injured over the last couple of games. Senior leader on that team, and he really just has been either just a non-factor or hasn't played. He didn't play in the Michigan State game, but you've looked at him over the last couple of games. This guy's averaging 8.4 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, so he is a solid player. Played against Michigan, 33 minutes, scored 5 points. Played against Iowa in 25 minutes, scored 3 points. It just seems like he kind of fell off a little bit, and just from an emotional perspective, he's one of the leaders of that team. And I think that even the fact that he missed the Michigan State game tells me he's currently dealing with some kind of injury, and he was able to play through it. Wasn't efficient at all in those other 2 games that he played. But still, I think he's a guy to monitor because if he ends up getting back on track, I think he's the biggest X factor this team has. But I can't really go against Illinois because Illinois is off a great win. This team seems to be clicking. It's very impressive to go into – I know Wisconsin's not very good, but you go into Wisconsin, into Michigan, you win both. that's still very impressive. And I don't really want to back Ohio State laying 2. So if I really had to take a spot here, I'm taking Illinois. You agree?
No, I don't. I'm going to go the other way. I think this is a desperate times call for desperate measures. I think Ohio State needs this one more than Illinois does. Not just for ranking or seeding. I think they need the confidence that beating a team like Illinois is going to give them. I think they stop the bleeding in this one and cover the 2.
Well, for the record, I do agree that Ohio State needs this game more. But I'm trading like I traded Oklahoma yesterday, and that worked out pretty well, which was until I see this team right the ship, I'm going to keep betting them to not right the ship.
Fair enough. I think Illinois is due for a letdown. I think they're going to be in a letdown spot after the big win over Michigan.
I feel like you have to play the under here, right?
I would think so. Yeah, if you're going to jump the total, I think you're going to have to play
150.
Yeah, that's a little strong for this one. I think that should be more in the 142, 143 range.
Yeah, I think that's definitely maybe if the Sunwoo was playing, it should be in the 150s. But since he's obviously not,
right?
So Illinois, how good the defense was against Michigan, gave up 69 against Wisconsin. But Wisconsin also had Trice, who scored 19 points. No exaggeration about the final 2 minutes of the game. So Wisconsin had 26 points at the half. This Illinois defense, ever since the Sunwoo got injured, has come to play. And I think that Ohio State's defense has been a serious problem over the last couple of games. Plus, the offense scoring 57 against Iowa is a bit concerning because offensively this team is struggling. So I like the under, and I'll also lean to Illinois.
Got another battle-ranked team, Scott, from the Big 12. Oklahoma State goes into Morgantown and takes on the West Virginia Mountaineers. Mountaineers 6.5-point favorites, 149. Another big total there is the number. You know, these are two teams kind of coming off of good performances. Oklahoma State took care of business in their game, but
but that was expected.
What's that?
We lost to Baylor, but that was expected.
Yeah, it took them to overtime, and really, I'm not saying controlled the game, but certainly was a factor in the game all the way through. Had the lead, I would say, the majority of the time. Certainly is. No, I'm talking about West Virginia.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Certainly is a game they could have won. Who you got there?
Okay, so I got confused there. I thought you were about Oklahoma State. That's why I got lost. But yes, for this one, truth is this is one of those where you should really be monitoring the injury reports because if you weren't paying attention to the Oklahoma State-Baylor game, who's the best player in Oklahoma State, probably number 1 overall pick? Do you remember his name this time?
Cade Cunningham.
Yes, Cade Cunningham, yes. And if you were not paying attention to that game against Baylor, he injured his ankle in the final minute, and he's got reevaluated. He's getting checked out. I think there's a good chance he doesn't play because Oklahoma State looks over and says, well, we got the conference tournament up next, and I know that they still have a pending ruling from the NCAA on whether or not this team will even be able to play in the tournament. I think they'll be able to play. But
do you think the NCAA is going to come out with a ruling before the tournament?
Well, the point is if they don't, then Oklahoma State can play.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is I think Oklahoma State's going to play whether or not the ruling comes out or not. I just think that it's going to work out in Oklahoma State's favor. So having said that, I think that there are more meaningful games on the horizon. And I don't know why you would rush your somewhat injured number 1 overall pick in the draft, the key to your entire team, into a regular season game against West Virginia, which you're probably not going to win anyway. Just being honest. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Cunningham not play. If he doesn't play, this line should move through the roof, which I think you'd agree with because he is by far the best player on the team, and it is not even close. So if West Virginia right now is laying around about 6.5 or 7, Cade Cunningham doesn't play, what do you think, 10.5, 11?
I don't think it goes much north of 10.
I think 10, 11 range, something like that, because I think that he's that valuable.
I just don't think college games are going to get that kind of movement. I could be wrong, but I think that's reserved for NBA.
That's just my opinion, but either way, even if let's just say it moves from 7 to 9, you think people are betting Oklahoma State on the 9?
You wouldn't think so.
I got to go with West Virginia. I think West Virginia is going to win the game whether Cunningham plays or not. If he plays, he's going to be less than 100%, and I don't think he's going to play because I think Oklahoma State realizes this game could definitely help us get a 3 seed or something like that, but we have the conference tournament up next, so why would we even bother? Do you agree?
Yeah, I think West Virginia wants to make a statement here. I think Huggins is going to have these guys ready to play, and I was impressed. They hadn't played great defense. They played good defense throughout the season, but they hadn't been playing that West Virginia style defense where you really sit up and take notice until they played Baylor.
Even Baylor, they scored 90-something points, but if you watch the game, West Virginia, as I said in a couple days ago, they had a couple stretches there where it looked like peak Huggins defense.
Yeah, agreed. I think they are able to shut down Oklahoma State, even if Cunningham plays. So
I'm not touching the total. I'll tell you that much. I know West Virginia's played up tempo, but if Cunningham does not play, this total should definitely drop. Yeah. I'm not really interested. I guess I'd lean under because if Cunningham does not play, which I think he won't, you should be able to beat a couple of points there of line movement if you have a book that actually puts the line out without knowing his status fully. So I'll lean under, but I like West Virginia there. I think it's a good spot for West Virginia to win by probably 12, if not more.
Yeah, I see a double-digit win there for West Virginia as well.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Well, looking through the rest of the card, once again, we have a couple of games that concluded today, which will lead to some conference tournaments, semis, and stuff like that, so we didn't have lines fully available for everybody. I want to talk about one other Big Ten game that's going to involve the ranked team here. It's going to be between Indiana and Purdue. Is Indiana even still on the bubble at this point, or are they just a complete lost cause?
For my way of thinking, I think they're
12-13.
Well, let's see what.
Lunardi definitely has them out after they've lost 4 in a row.
Lunardi does not have them in the first 4 or second 4 out.
Well, they shouldn't because they're below 500.
Well, then you've answered your own question.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is Indiana's still, I guess, on the cusp of maybe working something out. I can't believe they were projected to be in before losing to Michigan State when they were 12-12, which I think is absurd. But
they can't lose another game.
How do I not like Purdue in this spot? Just Indiana's lost 4 in a row. I know Minnesota imploded, but that was mostly because of injuries. Indiana has actually fallen apart. Home games against Michigan State, home game against Michigan, road game against Rutgers, all losses by 7 or double digits. Play Michigan State on the road, lost by 6, but now you play Purdue, who's not even just a solid Big Ten team. They're ranked. Like, they've really been, finding their rhythm over the last couple of weeks. They've won 4 in a row, and they played really well. And right now, if you look at the actual number, Indiana's getting about 7.5. I don't want to take that with Indiana, I'll tell you that much, because this team right now looks like they are in the middle of, I don't want to say packing it in, but it looks pretty close to it, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And this is a Purdue team, like you said, it's been kind of under the radar all season long because they got the big boys there in the Big Ten, but they're a 4 seed right now.
Yeah, they're good.
How they've been projected in the tournament. So they're not nothing. I think Purdue rolls in this one. And
just to look at some other games that involve ranked teams, I see that Villanova's playing Providence. I know Villanova's laying 4 on the road. We saw what happened the last time Villanova played on the road, got killed by Butler, and now Gillespie's probably going to be out for the rest of the year. You think Providence is live there? Or do you think Providence is so bad that it's just a lost cause?
I'm not going to touch that.
I'm just throwing it out there because it's a game with some storylines.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like it better at 6.5 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference in talent, even without Gillespie, is going to come through. Of course, they lost to arguably the best team, the worst team in the conference on the road. So obviously anything's possible. But I think Villanova gets it together again and covers that number. I like that short number at 4.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Now, a couple. I don't know if there's any games that you looked at or you just want me to keep bouncing some games around to you.
I looked at I like Mizzou over Louisiana State with Tillman back in the fold. They played tough the other night. Ended up losing a tough one on the road.
They had a big win against Florida though.
Yeah, they did. They come up with a big win against Florida, another road game. So I think that's a short price. This LSU team has been inconsistent at best and has been a bad team on the road. I'll take the Tigers there, laying the 1 point.
Okay. Just looking at some other stuff, it's kind of one storyline we did not talk about a day or two ago because you had some more news about what happened with Creighton, and now McDermott has been suspended indefinitely as the head coach. This team is laying double digits at home against Butler. We know Butler's terrible, so I'm not really going to talk about the game itself. My question is, do you think Creighton's screwed for the tournament because of all the sideshow distraction stuff?
Yeah.
Or do you think
I think they're good enough to win a game, maybe even two, maybe make it to the second weekend. But
I'm not picking them to make it to the Sweet 16 in my bracket.
I'd have to see what it looks like. But
Of course, I'm just saying I would not feel confident penciling them in as a Sweet 16 team.
No, I don't like the direction with the off court distractions and McDermott being suspended. You think they would address that fairly quickly, that maybe it won't be a long suspension. I don't know. Yeah, there's other teams I'll get behind before I'll get behind the Blue Jays there. As far as back and Butler, I'll let you go down.
Like Butler, I'm just throwing it out there. That's definitely one game that a lot of people are going to have very, very different opinions on.
Right.
Some people look at the coach not being gone and just saying, well, I got to take Butler plus the points because, you have a sideshow stuff going on. And other people looking over saying it's Butler. You're going to have a lot of people disagreeing about that game. But grand scheme of things, I think the Big East tournament's wide open. I know Seton Hall screwed me earlier this year in that moneyline game against Creighton where they blew it at home, but I think Seton Hall maybe has a shot. I don't think Xavier has a shot. I've seen Xavier play. I don't think Xavier is that good. I saw St. John's at 40-1. I don't think St. John's a great team. I root for St. John's, but they play a unique press style of defense that a lot of people don't really see that often. And with the conference tournament games being game after game after game with no real preparation time in between, I think St. John's can sneak up on some people. 40-1? Because the top two teams are Villanova's without its star point guard.
Right.
No coach.
Yeah.
So if you're really going to be laying there, I think that conference is wide open. Now, would it shock me if Villanova wins anyway or Creighton wins anyway? No. These are the most talented teams in the conference, but I think you can agree might be worth maybe a long shot there if you think that the top seeds are vulnerable, and I think they're quite vulnerable. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's worth a sprinkle for sure. Maybe even a sprinkle plus.
Yeah.
In a conference where the top two teams definitely have issues. So yeah, I
you set up some hedging opportunities if you end up pulling off one of those upsets.
Absolutely, I don't hate that. I'm trying to find anything out west that. I don't hate VMI over Furman. I think VMI is playing good ball right now. That's
VMI's getting 7, so you're getting a pretty solid deal there.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not convinced of Furman.
I'm just throwing out the number.
Yeah, correct. I'm trying to think of anything else here that.
You think there's a more underrated team right now, or a team that's under the radar than Arkansas?
No, probably not.
It's been rolling.
Yeah, they've been hammering. They're getting, although they are starting to be recognized by the books, laying 15 to A&M.
A&M's been a disaster, though.
Yeah, it's a terrible team. That's probably close to the worst team in the conference. I don't know. You always have Vanderbilt, but
it's slightly better than Vanderbilt. But according to the standings, it is the second worst team, and it's only played 16 games. So that's all you need to know about the COVID in that area.
Yeah, that's not a bad play. I might look in game there.
Yeah,
maybe A&M will get off to a decent start. I can get Arkansas at 8 or 9, which I think I'll load up on that all day. Virginia, Louisville, Scott, does that seem like a short number to you? Virginia on the road -2, not a great road team.
Sure, I actually like Virginia there.
The total on that is 80, Scott. That's weird. No, it's
it's probably
122, but still. Jesus.
Well, looking at Louisville did me a personal solid by beating Duke, not because I have any action against Duke. I just like laughing at Duke, which I'm sure a lot of people do. But if I look at Louisville, and this team has a little bit of injury issues, which has been kind of creeping in, which a lot of people don't really know because of the fact that they end up having Malik Williams, who he's been injured all year, ended up coming back for a couple of games, 5.6 rebounds this season. Those are his averages. But if you looked at just his length and his size, he definitely is a big body that Louisville uses to at least help with the rebounding. And now he's out again, probably out for the rest of the year. I think that's a loss. I think that he's definitely more valuable than his 5.6 rebounds per game suggest, especially against Virginia, who we saw against Florida State can't rebound the ball against athletic teams. And Malik Williams is easily their most athletic big. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a huge problem for a team that doesn't have that much depth to start with.
Yeah, so for me, I like Virginia. Louisville, I'll give this team props. This team has battled all season long. hit a bit of a cold spell middle of the year, but ended up kind of rallying, and now they're 13-5. They have been solid. But overall, Virginia, I still think is just a little bit too fundamentally sound for this team. Virginia, especially now that Williams isn't going to provide that rebounding upside where you know that Virginia just – it's one of those matchups where you see Williams being guarded by Virginia's center, and you just look over and say, can we get that guy some help? You know what I mean? Like you see that every now and then. Virginia is still 16-6, despite being a somewhat underwhelming year for Virginia, still tied for first place in the conference. I think Virginia gets it done. So for me, I'll go with Virginia. I wouldn't be surprised to see if Louisville pulls it out, but that injury does concern me, so I'm going to go with Virginia.
Okay. Anything else to get your attention?
Well, I know you got the battle. You wanted the game out west. You got USC versus UCLA.
Yeah, true. I
know USC's laying about 1.5, totals around 135.
Mm-hmm.
USC had one of the biggest destructions I've seen all year against Stanford in its last game. That was just –
That's a terrible Stanford team, by the way. When they go into that funk where they can't score, and they're just dreadful.
Well, Stanford's also been without its best player for the last couple of games, but they ended up winning 79-42. I don't know if you turn that game on. Stanford had 17 points at the half.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it early in the second half.
It was not pretty. Now, do I like this USC team? Not really. I think this team's good, not great, which I feel like sums up the entire Pac-12 to a T just in one sentence. Has lost 3 of its last 5 to some pretty, I'd say, mediocre teams. I think Colorado's good. Lost to Colorado by 18. Lost to Utah by 10 on the road. Complete no-show there. Now playing on the road against UCLA. We both ended up making some money on Oregon against UCLA a couple days ago. I really think that this game is going to come down to the wire, which is why the spread is at 1.5.
Yep.
I think USC is the better team, but UCLA also hasn't played a home game since February 20th. So you know that this team's going to come out and try to get it. I guess I'll lean UCLA plus the points when in doubt, but I expect that game to be a complete war. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, that game against Colorado, that was against Oregon rather, that was a game that UCLA easily could have won.
They were in there until the last couple of minutes, and
had things go right for us there in the last couple of minutes, but they could have a couple of shots going the other direction, and that could have easily been a Bruins victory. I do like them at home, home team catching points. I'll take that.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
All right. Anything else?
No, pretty much it.
All right, there you go.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about, or
no? I think that's it. I wanted to touch on Mizzou and talk about a couple others, but yeah, I think we're good.
Cool.
Should be a fun day as always. If you're looking for information on these games or any other games, there's going to be a lot of conference tournament games, semis tomorrow, maybe even a couple finals. I'm not sure if finals on Saturday, Scott.
I'm trying to remember if Winthrop plays on Saturday or Sunday, because they're playing Campbell in the final.
Okay.
I'm assuming Winthrop's going to be double-digit favorites, probably win the game handily, but still.
Yep. Agreed. All right, so either way, going to have a lot of fun games. Don't forget to stop by and check out Winners and Winers for deep dives into every game. A little small conference action. It is an invaluable resource this time of year. I say it every time, but I mean it, especially this time of year when a lot of these teams and conferences maybe you don't see every day, you're not familiar with them. Definitely stop by winnersandwiners.com, give you a little perspective, a little insight into those games and conferences. And, of course, we wish you guys nothing but the best. Don't forget to check us out on Monday night or Monday afternoon rather, and they're in Tampa. Get yourself on the computer, because I know if there's anything people want more of, Scott, it's you and me, right?
Definitely true.
All right. So as always, appreciate you listening. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at winnersandwiners.com. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on Today in Sports Betting. Take care, everybody.